Welcome to week 6. It's a bit difficult to believe the end is here, especially since we've covered a whirlwind of ethical approaches and topics in ethics over the past few weeks. This video is relatively brief. My main aim is to offer a concluding thought about our discussion of Christian ethics by focusing on the words of two saints. First, Saint Benedict. Saint Benedict is most famous for his little rule for monasteries. The rule contained a discussion of the practices that a Benedictine monastery needs to incorporate into the monk's life together to ensure that the monks are aiming toward their end destination, which is God. The rule contained rules for all parts of life: what kind of food to eat, what clothes to wear, when to sleep, when to pray, what to pray, the organization of the monastery, the way people should talk to each other, and so on. All aspects of everyday life, down to the most minuscule detail, are affected and written about, because Benedict sees that all of life is about directing us toward the will of God. In the prologue to the rule, Benedict writes, "Listen carefully, my child, to your master's precepts, and incline the ear of your heart. Receive willingly and carry out effectively your loving Father's advice, that by the labor of obedience you may return to him from whom you had departed by the sloth of disobedience. To you, therefore, my words are now addressed, whoever you may be, who are renouncing your own will to do battle under the Lord Christ, the true King, and are taking up the strong, bright weapons of obedience. And first of all, whatever good work you do, beg of him with most earnest prayer to perfect it." From these opening words to the rule, we see Benedict mentioning a virtue, obedience, and proclaiming that all of his precepts are about enabling a person to become obedient to the will of God. The virtuous life, supported by prayer, enables a person to recover their relationship with God. While most of us are not monks, still the admonitions about which Benedict writes are helpful for all of us, as he writes, whoever you may be, because these precepts show that life in God relates directly to our whole way of life. And now we turn to Saint Teresa of Avila, co-founder of the Order of Discalced Carmelites. Saint Teresa wrote many spiritual writings for everyone's edification, not only for the nuns in her monastery, and she often mentioned people in so-called secular state of life. She hoped, in fact, to help a secular world embrace God. She writes, for example, that the beginning of learning to practice a spiritual life is most difficult. If we tell a rich person living in luxury that it is God's will that he be careful and use moderation at table, so that others might at least have bread to eat, for they are dying of hunger, he will bring up 1,000 reasons for not understanding this, save in accordance with his own selfish purposes. If we tell a backbiter that it is God's will that he love his neighbor as himself, he will become impatient, and no reason will suffice to make him understand. We can tell a religious who has grown accustomed to freedom and comfort that he should remember his obligation to give good example, and keep in mind that when he says these words, they be not just words, but put into practice. But it is useless nowadays to insist with some of them. For Teresa, as for Benedict, the good actions and related virtues are the start of our journey toward God. We find any number of excuses to avoid these actions, and much of ethical discussion, though not all, I think, is related to helping people make a beginning, even just a small beginning, to consider how to live the virtues in their lives, so that they can take that small step toward God. But now let's turn toward some of the conclusions that both Saint Benedict and Saint Teresa make. Saint Benedict writes, "Now we have written this rule, in order that by its observance in monasteries we may show that we have attained some degree of virtue and the rudiment of religious life. Whoever you are, therefore, who are hastening to the heavenly homeland, fulfill with the help of Christ this minimum rule, which we have written for beginners, and then at length, under God's protection, you will attain to the loftier height of doctrine and virtue. The rule is only a beginning on the path toward God. The virtues are merely the first step for many Christians. What we have studied in this class is merely the beginning. On the other hand, the virtues and external action are the means by which God might be moving us more deeply toward God without us knowing. Teresa of Avila writes, "O Lord, how different are your paths from my clumsy imagining. There was a person to whom I spoke a few days ago, who for about 15 years was kept so busy through obedience with work and occupations in government, that in all those years he didn't remember having one day for himself, although he tried the best he could to keep a pure conscience and have the same periods each day for prayer. He has found that he has, without knowing how, the same precious and desirable liberty of spirit that the perfect have. In it they find all the happiness that they could be wanted in this life, for in desiring nothing, they possess all. Nothing on earth do they fear or desire, neither do troubles disturb them. In sum, nothing can take away their peace, because these souls depend only on God. This is not the only person, for I have known some others of the same sort. I saw such improvement in spiritual things that I was amazed. Well, come now, my daughters, don't be sad when obedience draws you to involvement in exterior matters. Know that if it is in the kitchen, the Lord walks among the pots and pans. God walks among the pots and pans. God walks in our whole lives, and our whole lives ought to be devoted to God. At the point when virtue becomes part of our lives almost without our thinking about it, then we are able to see God in every part of our life. And so as we come to the end of our time together, knowing that what we study about Christian ethics is only the beginning, but a good beginning toward an entire way of life in God. God bless you on the rest of your endeavors.